Hello and good evening, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. I am excited tonight, fellas. I'm so glad to see Harold with a beautiful smile. We'll talk to you in a minute. And Parnell with that beautiful smiling. Beautiful smiling. Well, anyway. It's good to see everybody tonight, guys. We want to thank you so much for tuning in to The Truth Behind the Truth tonight on your Saturday night special. All right, getting you ready for the rest of the weekend, getting you ready for the July 4th holiday, those that you celebrate it, in certain communities they don't, but that's understandable. Maybe we'll drop a nugget on that or two tonight, and why they don't. But anyway, I want to welcome you to the show tonight. Also want to remind you, please like and share on every one of our platforms. You do find us on Twitter, you do find us on YouTube, and you do find us on Facebook. Okay, and partially on Instagram. You can follow Harold on Instagram, you can follow Parnell on Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram, you can follow Dylan on Instagram. Okay, so we're all over the place. So you gonna turn up and see our face at some point. Turn up. All right. The next part is that we are asking. We want to grow. We want to grow. So we need your support. All right. We have two right now. Two. Count them. 1, 2 opportunities for you to support us. Okay. You can support us by our Cash App. That is TTB
offering plate.
Yes, TTB show on Cash App, and on Venmo it is The Truth Behind the Truth. All right, so hey, get that money to flowing. All right, because we want to go. We don't want to go. We are going places. We just want to bring you along.
And we like the money that jingles, but we rather have the kind that folds. Okay, all right.
Yes,
and like TLC said, we ain't too proud to beg.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Who said that first?
TLC.
Temptation said that too. That
was Temptation. Ain't
too proud to beg. Oh, I'm too young to know who.
Oh yeah, that
we're too old over here.
No, we're not gonna start the day off lying.
Right.
I am sorry.
You ain't got to lie, Craig.
Yeah, exactly.
Telling our age, honey.
So here, I know you're down in the Miami, the hottest place on the planet. Okay.
Right.
And I ain't talking about the people that live there. Okay.
I
was talking about the temperature. Okay.
Well, both.
Okay.
But you know what I learned? You guys know I don't watch the news very often, but I got some information while I was getting a pedicure, and the technician was talking about the anti-immigration legislation goes into effect today, and she was talking about how her brother, who's a construction worker, was saying that so many of the people are no longer at the construction sites.
Wow.
And a lot of people have moved to Georgia. And she was also telling me, and because I don't pay attention to the news, how severe this law is. If you are caught with an immigrant in your car, you can be held criminal charge in your car, in your house.
What?
If they go to the hospital, it has to be reported to the authorities. And this is just really dangerous legislation. It's just really, really horrific. When she was talking about
and I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to dig into that. Okay. Parnell, how you doing real quick? Let's check on Parnell real quick. We're going to dig into what you were saying.
Harold.
I'm good. I got my Uncle Nearest and ginger ale to deal with all this madness, so I'm all right.
He ready.
Okay. Well, we're doing a little mosquito. So little mosquito this evening. How are you doing now?
I'm mad as hell.
Okay, good.
And I want to talk about it. I really want to talk about it because let me tell you something. This past week, if your eyes haven't been open like Harold's,
okay,
especially in the state of Florida, because I was going to ask you how is it in DeSantis' paradise, but this man is running for president. So y'all, hey, if this is Florida, this could be the United States of America if he gets in a Trump. Well, you know what?
Well, yeah. I mean, he would have a little bit of an uphill battle if they're trying to do something on a national level. But when he is just like he's not the one governing factor that could make a decision like that on the U.S. unless he was the only person. But anyway, but that couldn't happen that quickly. But he'd have to have a board of people, on his side to be able to do it.
And where is he from? Is he from America?
I don't know.
He's an Italian immigrant,
and I'm surprised that being an Italian, he acted that damn stupid.
He was born in America, but he has Italian descent in him.
And really, I know probably some of his Italian people are very embarrassed. I mean, for his, most Italians don't act that stupid. I'm saying, that's stupid. Really, they don't. You know what I mean? I got some Italian friends, and they are nowhere close to acting, that stupid. You know,
And
I
heartless.
disagree.
No, heartless. That's the thing for me.
yeah, it is. It
Hey,
very
Mr.
is.
Tawana, Tawana, how you doing? Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, y'all. I'm sorry, Tawana.
No, and I'm just really, the ones that I know have never, and I don't think they're actually supporting that type of legislation in the first place. You know?
But he's in the state of Florida, so
Well, yeah,
you got a lot of them
different.
that who forget. They forget.
Right.
You got Cuban Americans who forget.
Right.
You got Jewish Americans who forget.
Right.
You got African Americans who forget.
Who forgot?
Who forgot?
Okay, not forget, but forgot. I mean,
And
really.
you got all types of white Americans, whoever they might be, who have never forgotten.
Right.
That's why they want to bring America back to. Oh yeah, that's one.
Yeah,
A German American. That's another descendant of an immigrant. A
Right.
German American. You know, like I say, at the end of the day, these people are not surprising. And let's get into this Supreme Court situation. Let's talk about it. This thing came up. This affirmative action came up because somebody felt like they were left behind because they had to make up some high scores to get into an Ivy League school they had no chance of getting into because of their Asian American situation.
Right.
This right here got me all the way to got me in my feelings because I remember when I was living in Atlanta, my uncle Fred Hall, he would come. I would have a conversation with him every morning when I get off of work. He would sit me down. We'd have these little political conversations. He would tell me about the affirmative action program that happened in the 70s and the 80s. And he would tell me about the quotas when it boiled down to these schools and to these businesses that were hiring Black people to fill in, the quota, at least at that time period. When he said when they realized that white women were the minority as well, they didn't need Black folks to fill in those quotas. So they started hiring a lot of white women. And I thought about that. I said, I said, that's interesting. So when this story came out about this man from Canada who was trying to get into an Ivy League school, he felt like because there was a bunch of Black kids were getting in because not on merit, but because on race. He felt like everybody was getting me not on merit, but on race. The saddest thing about this situation is they're going to drink their own tea right now because what they have realized, they have set themselves back. This Asian man did not understand, and Clarence Thomas is the situation right now because he's the benefactor of affirmative action. If it wasn't for the affirmative action, he wouldn't have gotten into Harvard in the first place. Right. And now that he has gotten this job that has allowed him to make decisions to set us back,
and that's what's so upsetting for me.
Very upsetting.
When you have benefited from something, now you want to cut it off. And as someone, if it weren't for affirmative action, I wouldn't have gotten into college because I just didn't have the grades and I just didn't have the preparation because my parents didn't know nothing about no SAT tests and taking me to work to a training class to prepare for it. So I just was not prepared for, college. And it was because of affirmative action that I was allowed to get in on the probationary period, but I still had to prove myself once I got there. It wasn't like they were giving me grades, passing grades, just because, you still had to do the work, and even when I had my first business, I got a big contract because of affirmative action, because a lot of those contracts typically went to folks that were in that network of folks. And if you don't have that exposure, you just don't get those opportunities. So for me, for the Supreme Court to do what they did just took us back hundreds of years, because it's as if to say racism doesn't exist, inequality doesn't exist, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Who knows what they're going to,
And Harold, how many Black people were in that class that you were in? How many were in that class?
Me, I was the only Black person. Like in most of my classes, I was only Black in those classes. And having to deal with that was a whole nother issue, just to be the only one, particularly coming from a predominantly Black school to go to a predominantly white school and to be the only white in the class was, it was overwhelming and it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. So it ain't like nobody giving you nothing. And that's the whole kind of implication that they're trying to make. And they're not saying anything about these legacy admissions, like because your grandfather went to this school and your grandfather, they're not saying anything about that, but it's just really unsettling.
Right.
It's like you have to be an athlete to get in, but go ahead, Parnell.
Well, no, because it is the whole thing. Because I've had this conversation before with because I think I forget the guy's name who brought this suit is a young Asian dude, and his thing was like, well, they have to lower the standards for Black people. I was like, bullshit. Nothing was lowered. And then it's like he felt he was being discriminated. The Asians had to do this much better, but the Asian population at Harvard is more than the Asian population in the country. So it's not like Asians aren't being allowed into Harvard, but it's like, y'all can't be the only ones that get to come in. We also have to make room for the Black students to come in, for the Hispanic students to come in, as well as for, these legacy folks who keep coming in just because their mom and daddy bought a building or whatever. So, which is really the problem, but it is, again, that thing of ethnic minorities in this country, I'm gonna say, because people of the global majority, having to compete against one another. Like, we're not the enemy here. We're not the one who built this system that kept whiteness up here, and the rest of us got to try to fight each other to get the scraps.
Right.
So, because that would have been the thing, was like, well, if you really want to protest something, protest these legacy students who were getting in just because their mom and daddy or grandmother, somebody went to Harvard or gave so much money. That's a real problem, not affirmative action, getting otherwise qualified Black people an opportunity to come to Howard, which is what I love. The interview that Joy Reid, who went to school with me, Montbello, when she was talking about Harvard came looking for her because she tested so well. She had the grades to get into Harvard. They said, well, let's see if she got the other things that would make her a good candidate for Harvard.
Right. Perfect. I mean, all I can do is I concur with everything else that you guys are saying, about that. I mean, there's a little bit more I wanted to put a spin on, but that's okay. But
let's continue the conversation.
No, well, we can't, because we got a guest coming up.
Let's continue it.
So we'll probably bring it back up toward the end of the show.
Yeah.
And one point we're gonna bring was that damn BET Awards after our guest, because that shit was a mess. But anyway, so we
always want to talk about your cousins.
I know, right?
You always want to talk about your cousins.
We're getting ready for a quick break, guys, and we will be back. Parnell's going to do the wonderful introduction of our beautiful and wonderful guest tonight. It's going to be a great show. We're going to dig in and get some good information, even about what we've been talking about. All right? We'll be right back after this break.
Call 844-55-STARZ. It's Junk Stars, baby.
Hey, my name is Thurston, and here I have my CEO, son Langston. We specialize in junk removal, dumpster rental, and demolition. So if you need junk removed,
call Junk Stars.
You need dumpster rentals,
call Junk Stars.
Hello. All right, guys, and welcome back to the Truth Behind the Truth. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you to all of our guests that have taken time to tune in tonight, our special guests that have once been part of the show, like my dear cousin Twyla. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and everybody else that had made themselves noticeable, okay, at this point. But anyway, we're about to dig in, get a little bit further into the show tonight. Parnell's going to do us the honor of introducing our wonderful, beautiful guest this evening, and we're going to hear what her opinion is about a lot of things tonight, as well as talk about her wonderful story. All right, Parnell?
Call John Stars. That commercial just gets me every time. All right, well, we want to welcome to the show our sister, Melinda Hale, who is an American singer, songwriter, actress, entrepreneur, host, and a social justice activist. She is the host of We Need to Talk podcast and creator of the Black Voices Heard project, which is where we first met. I was invited to take part in that, and I said some very wise things, and she'll tell you. She is also the owner of JMV Entertainment Music Agency here in LA, and she is a wife and mother as well as all these other. She is a superwoman.
Come on now.
Please welcome Melinda Hale.
Come on now.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So the good news is you'll get that every time you come to the show, okay? So if you need to feel good on the day, come to the Truth Behind the Truth, okay?
Definitely a superwoman with all them titles.
Yes.
And you just sang the national anthem at a Dodgers game last week.
I saw that.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow. So tell us about you real quick. I know you said a lot then, but on your personal level, tell us a little bit about how did, I guess in the short, how these little stages of your life occurred, from its inception and moving out.
Oh God, where do I even start? I grew up in a musical household. My dad was a musician, so I was always influenced by performing. Grew up singing in church. One of those go to church every day where you're like, I'm so sick of church, Mom. Like, so church choir, youth group, all that stuff. Did a lot of musical theater in school. That was really where I got my feet wet. And my first theater teacher in 5th grade is still one of my very close friends and mentors to this day.
Wow, beautiful.
And I really wouldn't have been honestly involved in the arts had it not been for him, honestly. He pushed me and encouraged me and saw something in me. So I'm very, very grateful for Clark Sayre. Did musical theater all throughout high school, went to college, got my major in vocal performance. And then after that, I just, started hitting the ground running in LA. And then I moved to New York for a little bit, then Chicago. So now I've been back to LA. So kind of just in the gamut of like the big cities. And really music was always my passion, but I always loved acting and performing. But I was always vocal about how I felt. So that's where the activism really came in.
Right.
And, I would say probably since 2016, ever since, BLM really became a thing, I realized that my voice was needed in other places beyond me singing. And
wow, beautiful.
That was really what kind of set me on that path. And I've just been moving forward with that ever since. And that's why the podcast ended up happening, because people really took to what I was saying. And social media is a blessing and a curse. But I think on my end of it, it has been a blessing, because I feel like I've been able to share my perspectives and my approach to empathy with people that may not necessarily be exposed to that in their life, especially coming from the church and having gone to a conservative Christian college.
Wow. Okay.
I always joke. I say this every show I do. I went into that school liberal and I left super, 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 super liberal because they were
funny how that happens.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I know how that feels living in the Bible Belt.
It could have gone the other way. I could have come out conservative and ended up but thank God I didn't. So that's the Reader's Digest version of just kind of where I am. I found a way to healthily blend all of the things that matter to me in my life with performing and activism.
Well, Melinda, you mentioned growing up in the church. You have a song called "God and His Gun." What's that about?
You're right to that. Okay, so, God and His Gun, I wrote basically about how the church responds to social justice. And this isn't all churches. I have been very blessed to be a part of a lot of progressive church spaces, but by and large, churches and Christianity in this country, they are not known for walking like Jesus. I'll just put it that simply.
You have to come back to another show with me.
I can talk about that all day. I mean, hours.
All day, baby. Okay.
And
all the
so,
day.
yeah, I mean, truly all day. And so I wrote this song called God and His Gun. And the chorus basically is calling people out. And the last line of it is basically saying, if you're not going to change this, then I'm going to leave you to your God and His gun. Okay. Because a lot of those people are very pro Second Amendment, and it's all about the guns. And but the artwork of the song is Jesus holding a gun.
I saw that.
So I was like, if y'all gonna be inflammatory, so am I. So that's one of my favorite songs that I've written, and it's the music video is incredible. Shout out to my friend Michael Schwartz, who directed it for me. Very, very poignant and very relevant, I would say.
You know, I know you had a question. Just piggybacking on it, I'm not going to send it to them, but I love to know that there's somebody out there that challenges all that like I do. Like I said, you know, because I would probably say God with a machine gun. Okay, or a bazooka. All right. Honey, I can tell. I ain't gonna get into it tonight. We got too much to talk about, buddy. Anyway, I'm gonna hold my bazooka, get ready to shoot it. But go ahead.
But you know what is so important about what you say? I was thinking about when you were speaking about what Nina Simone said back in the 60s, how it is so important for an artist to connect with the times and to be the messenger of the times. So my question with that, as an activist, as a songwriter, how do you feel about this situation that's going on within the Supreme Court with the situation with the LGBT plus and the affirmative action that's just now ended? What is your take on that? Because I know this must be itching for a project that's going to come up out of you, a song that's going to come out.
I know. I mean, that's the thing. I just feel like ever since 2016, there hasn't been a shortage of things to talk about and write about and speak about. I think, God, where do I even start? I'll start with affirmative action specifically. First of all, everyone that is mad about affirmative action does not know why it was created in the first place. As with most things, they don't know the history. The do your research on people only do me search. I've realized that's just what the situation is. Right. And I do find it very interesting. You know, you guys put up the picture of Clarence Thomas, and he's been like a big vocal advocate for being against affirmative action. And you mentioned that he benefits from it. But oddly enough, most Black conservatives are the biggest benefactors of affirmative action because they would not have the platforms that they have were they not Black. Because all they're doing is giving a Black face to white supremacist talking points. And people like Candace Owens, people like Clarence Thomas, like they would not be where they are if they were not Black. So I always find it very interesting, the hypocrisy behind opposition, because people don't really look into it that way. Also, I love that you guys mentioned Joy Reid, because I thought that her experience with it is something that everybody needs to hear to truly understand how affirmative action works. But here's the issue that I have had, and this is my own personal upbringing. My mom was an educator, so I was always in school. I never got a summer. She was like, you are in the reading classes in the library. We're doing math. We're doing this. So I appreciated that from her. I graduated high school at 16. I skipped a grade and I graduated high school at 20. In high school, I was the second highest achiever I won 21 academic and performing arts awards. I was the second highest. Most. I was on the dean's list in college. I had a 3.6 GPA. I was the lead in the musical 3 out of my 4 years of high school.
Right.
Wow.
I cannot tell you how many times I was told that I only received those things because I was Black.
Wow.
So for me, I personally feel that it doesn't matter whether or not affirmative action is in existence or not. There is never a scenario where we as Black people are given the privilege to achieve what we know we can achieve. We will always be told that we only got somewhere because we're a diversity hire or because, they needed to fill a quota. But we've proven time and time again that we are capable of achieving, and they act like we're not capable. And that's what upsets me. But look at what we've invented. Look what we've created. Look how pervasive our culture is. Our culture influences literally every aspect of the country. So if you want to take us away, let's see how y'all do. You know what I mean? Right? And so without affirmative action now, and we still get in, like, who are you going to blame? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm kind of like interested to just sit back and see what happens, because all those mediocre, non-melanated folks is what I like to say, that don't achieve what they think is theirs for some reason. What is your excuse? You know, and I happen to be, my husband is white, and I actually grew up more privileged than he did. He grew up in Kansas. His family was very, very poor, but he is the example of actually working hard to get to where he is. Like, he was a very smart man. He got into University of Chicago for law school. He's now a lawyer for Disney, but he worked hard. And he is like the first one to be like, it's all these mediocre white people. Like, that's what he will say, right? Because he grew up in Kansas. Like, that's
right. Okay.
He knows what he's talking about. I'm just interested to see what the fallback of this will be for all of those people that are complaining. And I love that. I think, Harold, you mentioned legacy admissions, and also buying your way in is a huge thing. But they won't get rid of that. And I think it's interesting that they think that that is a right for them, but it's not a right for us to be given the opportunities to be in the same rooms.
And see, that's what I say. Is that it's the whole thing is that because Black people have the audacity to achieve despite all the obstacles that have been set in our place, because it's like, oh, well, they can't do this, they can't do that. And then we go like, watch me, you know, and then we achieve. It's like going, oh, their achievement is flying in the face of all the lies that I've been telling about who they are and what they can do. And so we come in as like, and everything that we have been blocked from, once we get past that, once one gets past that gateway and they start seeing the talent, then all of a sudden there's a flood of Black people who are now excelling in science, who are now excelling at swimming even, you know, because like, oh, Black people can't swim. Like, guess what? We have Olympic athletes, Black Olympic athletes on our team and other teams. Yes, we can. You know, so we see this. So when it comes to education, and when I see these young Black kids are like testing off the charts on the IQ, and I'm like, yeah, that's a little Black boy that y'all say couldn't. This little Black girl over here, because I think it was a Black girl and a Black guy who got the most scholarships and the most money out of anybody ever in history. So that flies right in the face of white supremacy, saying that we cannot achieve this and that we don't have the intelligence for that. And it's like, they didn't only get that because they're Black. They got that because they are intelligent human beings.
But even more so, just us as a whole, we've always figured out how to excel, like you said, despite. But you look at it. When we had our own cities, we had our own towns, we were thriving. Then here they come. You know what I mean? Like, burn it down, because they can't handle seeing us achieve in that way. And that's
true. That's true.
It doesn't matter what era we're in. There's always some version of that.
True. You know, I want to explore the dynamics of the relationship of you and your husband, you know, and I think it's so beautiful, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, that you guys have found a cohesive way of understanding both cultures and able to speak power to both cultures, that you know, for what you do, and I'm just maybe just a prophetic moment, you know, if you understand what I'm saying about that, but just the fact that you're on the forefront of change, you see what I'm saying? Because you have found someone, and he has found someone that is able to appreciate what's coming out of them and not necessarily seeing the exterior for that, you know. So I want to give you a shout out and applause for that, you know. I mean, at the end of what you and your husband both. The other part about that is that in your advocacy, how do you weave that into your conversations too? Typically, you know, some pro-Black women, you know, whatever, that are just down. You say, well, hey, you know what? I'm married to a white man, but you said, so tell me about the butt. You know,
because we know you've gotten some backlash, Melinda, from your cousins. So how you gonna be so pro-Black and anti-racism, and you had your white man? What do you say to your cousins that say that?
Okay, what Harold said. Okay. I'm delicate, Harold. Okay.
I mean, yes, obviously. I think most, especially Black women, I think more so Black women than anything, if they're married to a white men, they get the most backlash. You know, Black women are strong. We can handle it. But I think the interesting thing is, I don't know why people think who you're with defines who you are. If that's how you're living your life, then that's a you problem. That's not a me problem, because it doesn't matter. I mean, my mom will say I've been boy crazy since I was 4. Like, I've loved and had crushes on every race, every guy. It didn't matter. I was like, I just want somebody to love me, right? And it just ended up having to be a white guy. That's just what it was. I mean, I know all of the crushes, every races of every, and it's been literally the United Nations in my life. But I think that just comes down to I'm just strong in who I am and where I come from and how my parents raised me, and I'm not defined by my relationship. I was a whole person before I met him.
Right.
I didn't look for him to complete me.
Right.
And I'm not saying I can take him or leave him, but I'm just saying, like, I could have taken him or leave it. You know what I mean? But I love him, and he adds more to my already 100%.
Exactly.
So there you have it, cousins. That's a you problem, cousins. That is a you problem, cousins. That is not Melinda's problem. That's y'all problem.
That's a you problem. That's a you problem.
Thank you.
If who you are is defined by your relationship, that is you. But that's
right.
I'm not defined by my
girl, I'm telling you, we're gonna have to sit down and talk together. Okay, you talk. They know that is my advice counsel all the time. All right. But anyway, we got to get ready for a quick break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna dig in a little bit more from you, Melinda. So hey, I am so excited about you being here tonight. You know, we're gonna dig in some more. We got some more questions coming at you. So guys, we'll be right back after this break.
Start the stars and rise. We start believing that we belong, but every sun doesn't rise, and no one tells you when you went wrong. Step out of the sun if you can't get burned. Step out of the sun because you've learned, On the outside, always looking in. Will I ever be more than I've always been? Cause I'm tapping on the glass. I'm waving through a window.
I know.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into The Truth Behind the Truth and with our wonderful, wonderful guest, Miss Melinda Hill. This is exciting. I'm telling you. Yes, indeed. Do want to remind you guys to check us out every Saturday evening at this time in your respective time zones. Also want you to remember to support. Harold, what's your offer, please? You had offer.
Ooh, yeah.
But we've been having church tonight,
Yeah,
so
we're gonna have
you know. But you can go to Cash App, and you're reminded on that it is TTTBTT Show, and on Venmo, The Truth Behind the Truth. All right, so send that money. We don't want jingling, we want folding. Okay. All right, let's go and dig back in.
Yeah.
Let me say this: for all those who don't want to just give money, we are looking for people who are looking to advertise.
Right,
so
exactly.
you get something for your money. You know, if you want to just
Yeah.
give it, we'll take it. But if you want to run an ad on our show, we'd be happy to have you.
Absolutely. And you
All
can
the
say,
outside. I was like, I'm gonna sing along with you, Melinda.
all right. Go ahead.
But you know what, Melinda? We talked about this before the show. Now you are a songwriter, actress. You have your own podcast. You have did ads for Queen Latifah. You have did so many off-Broadway shows. Where does that energy, where does that drive come from? Do you have somebody that has influenced you and your work ethic that you have known over, has mentored you? Where does that come from? Where is that?
Honestly, and no disrespect to my dad because I love them. They're still married. They've been married for 40 years. But my mother absolutely, just in how she operates. Like my dad's very much a homebody and don't want to be bothered with nobody. But I get it. The older I get, I am starting to understand him more. But my mom, for sure, you know, she was an educator. She was a guidance counselor for high school and college level. She's a very social person, very involved in the church, very progressive, very loving. And she just always encouraged me to do the things that make me happy. And she was just always involved in a lot of things too. And I definitely feel like I am a replica of her just in how I move through the world. So I'm really grateful for her allowing me the space to try different things and see what worked for me, what made me happy, what I excelled at, what I wasn't good at. Because she also wasn't afraid to tell me that either. She was like, she was that kind of mom, right? But the things that I was really good at, she was there. She pushed me and encouraged me. So she's my biggest supporter. She has folders on folders on folders of everything I've done since I was 5. And I know she's just really just this incredible woman. So she's really my biggest inspiration. And then second is Oprah.
Yes. Come on, there you go. There you go. Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
She does everything, and I want to do everything too. So
Yes.
I just feel like I heard your mother going like, Melinda, honey, I love you, but that's not your ministry, baby. You should stay over here. You do really good.
Maybe God's pulling you over in this direction.
Right.
So Melinda, so next year is election time. You posted a very funny post.
God forbid.
You said election is next year and Joe Biden has fallen one too many times for my liking. I say amen. But what are we supposed to do, Melinda? What are we supposed to do?
Okay, I'm going to be real. This is what I think. So one, God bless Joe, but I'm sorry. My dad is almost 80 and there's no way in this world that I would be okay with him running this country, right? So let's just be honest about the fact that you know, he's 80 years old and he's fallen it quite a few times. And I'm also just worried about his safety. Like, I think he has done some good things. I think, you know, every president I try to give grace to because everybody that complains, like, what would you do in that position, right? Be honest about it. Not a lot of people have the capacity to run an entire country. But here's what I kind of feel might happen. I actually don't think he's going to end up running. And I do see a lot of conservatives talking about this in a negative way, but I happen to think, based on the amount of press that this person is having at the moment, especially against Ron DeSantis, I really do think that Gavin Newsom is going to end up tapping in.
Wow, that's good. That would be a definite plus. You know what I mean?
Because of how public he's been in his opposition towards DeSantis, and I think it would be very interesting to see the two of them go head to head. I do.
That is really good. That's really good. I kind of second that.
This is going to be some tea that I would like to sip on and have some popcorn.
Right?
I really have to second that. I mean, I could really see that. You know, the only person I will submit that I think that's going to happen, not this 4 time, but the next 4 time, is Hakeem Jeffries.
Absolutely.
would be the ultimate. I think I don't even put him in the category of Barack Obama. You know what I'm saying? But he would be his own standing force to be reckoned with. You know, I think he just needs this little bit of time, you know, in Congress to be able to establish himself a little bit more. But I'm sorry, I think that, you know, I think by 8 years from now, he will definitely be, I think, a driving force. You know,
he had a great entrance into the whole political spectrum for people to be like, okay, I'm watching you. I'm
yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was the same way I did with Barack Obama when he was at the convention. I said what was that, 2006, 4? 4, yeah, 4. Yeah, I think it was 4. When he made his speech, I said, no, that man will be the next president. I just knew it. You know, I mean, at the end of the day,
you weren't the only one.
That man would be the next president, and which it was, you know.
I always get a little nervous when people have a big splash. Y'all remember Sarah Palin?
Oh
my God! Why did you bring that?
Can we turn that camera off? Okay.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Now that's a situation where I wish
we're going to mute your mic, Carol.
That's a situation I wish we could forget, as the song would say. I mean,
but it failed for them, so
right.
I don't think. We don't. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be in that situation.
Thank God. But you know what? I find very.
And again, you got. I'm sorry, Pearl. You got stupid in Florida right now. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, not Florida, stupid in Georgia. Stupid in Georgia. I mean, that they both can probably try to put lipstick on a pig at the same time.
You know what? With Ron DeSantis. And this is why I think he's scarier than Trump. I actually don't think he's stupid. I actually think he is very, very smart. And I think that is what is scary about him. I think that he's very calculated in the things that he's doing. I think he understands the law and he knows how to leverage it and manipulate it. Absolutely. So I don't think we should really like sleep on Ron DeSantis because he's terrifying. I think he is terrifying. I find I know you guys had mentioned this before, just about the new laws there. First and foremost, I want to say that everybody is an immigrant. So
right.
Let's start there. But you know, it is interesting because you talked about him being Italian. Like his great grandparents were from the first Italian diaspora. So for him to have the lack of empathy that he does for immigrants.
Exactly.
It's really distasteful. But also, I wish this were kind of a test in humanity, but I know this isn't what he's doing. I think he's just being racist. But if he were kind of calling the bluff of all the people that are like, you know, the Mexicans and the Latins, Hispanics are taking our jobs. He's like, here, I'm giving you guys your jobs. Go take them. Nobody showed up. Nobody showed up to take their jobs. Okay? There are videos on videos of construction not being done, of fruit not being picked, of things not, you know, those typical jobs that people end up giving undocumented immigrants because there's nothing that they can do, not skill wise, but I'm like, there's nothing else that they can get hired for, right?
Right.
So you're complaining about that. Those jobs are available now. None of you have showed up.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
What is it that you actually want? And who should you blame? Should you blame the undocumented immigrant for coming to try to have a better life and taking the jobs that are being given to them? Or should you blame the people at the top that are hiring them so they can save money?
Right. Okay.
Anger is displaced whenever it comes to people of color.
Yes. That is so true.
See, now I understand why you have that podcast. We need to talk.
I have things to talk about.
Tell us about the podcast. I had the chance to listen to a couple of episodes, and really was, I mean, the information that was being shared was like not information that's been widely shared. I feel like it was an episode like the table talk. It's like going deeper, you know. So tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah. So interesting enough, I actually started the podcast. I started it as a live social justice series at the church that I used to be a worship leader at, because I'm like, you guys are a progressive church. What are you doing? Right. Let's have these conversations. Let's make it really uncomfortable for you. And it really did well. And people were being educated, and that's all I've ever wanted. And so I would have panel guests and we have these discussions and people would ask questions, and it was great. And then I just had the idea, I was like, oh, podcasts are a thing. Let me turn it into a podcast. Then the pandemic happened, so there was really nothing else to do. But it's just grown from there. And I've had, I've been blessed to have so many incredible guests on the show and some really, really deep, meaningful conversations. And my whole motto is everything begins with a conversation. You can't make any kind of change without talking about it. So it's been a labor of love, and it's just really important to me to have those conversations.
And I can hear it in your voice, and that's good. It just that resonates. I'm so glad you're here. Parnell, go ahead. I know you had another question.
Well, it's just interesting, as with the Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act being struck down, and immediately all these states started enacting all these restrictive voting regulations, and we see the same thing that right after this, or right during the same time as the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action, that I think there were like 4 Black women in one day were fired from their diversity, equity, inclusion positions. Just like
Carolyn Thorne was one of them.
And it's one of those things of like, it shows that these companies weren't going after diversity because they truly believed in it. They were going after because they were being made. You have to hire a diverse populace, a diverse group of employees. And as soon as they were like, well, the law says we don't have to do it, they couldn't wait. So like, okay, bye.
Yeah. They only did it because their feet were being held to the fire.
Right.
And there are some companies, I will say, after 2020, when all of that happened, all the Black squares and George Floyd's being murdered, that did stick to their word. And I do believe that they have been trying to do things better. Target, for me, is one of the main ones that actually,
Target.
They have really, really shown tremendous progress in what they've done with DEI. But yeah, it was just a checklist for a lot of people. It's very performative and it's very disappointing. But this is what their version of Make America Great Again is. And without us, just see how great it is.
And that's why it is so important to vote.
Right.
You got to get out and vote in your local and state levels.
Right.
Yes.
I had a conversation with one of my security guards about that. I said, because he didn't understand it. I said, don't you understand when you give away your right to vote, you're giving away your citizenship?
That's true. So I unfortunately, we are coming to the point where we are wrapping it up with you tonight. Oh my gosh.
I know. We can talk all night though.
I know. You're gonna have to come back or invite us to come talk with you or whatever. But drop a couple of quick notes, maybe 30 seconds before we go to break, that you want to say tonight, just to the people that are listening tonight, encourage them to follow you more and put their point in humanity as well.
Yes. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I thought I said a lot. I'm trying to. So just drop a few of your golden nuggets on everyone, okay? About number 1, following you, and then 2, what you feel that they need to do to make our progression in society a little bit better.
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Melinda Hale. I'm always talking about something, especially on Instagram. So please, and I try to engage with people as often as I can. But I will say, as I said before, everything does begin with a conversation. But what I want people to realize is that change starts with you, even if it doesn't involve you. So we can't always be thinking about ourselves. And we have to get to a point where realizing that helping other people does actually end up helping us. So if people would stop being in their me, selfish phase, we could probably make a lot more progress. And instead of trying to pull each other down and have this oppression Olympics, one person's struggle actually does affect everybody. And especially with marginalized groups and people of color, look at who the actual perpetrator is and stop going against one another.
That's good.
So beautifully said. I mean, I knew it was going to be a nugget. Okay.
I don't want you to go, Melinda. Don't go.
We are going to have you back, Melinda. I am so sure we are definitely. Invite us over, whatever. We'll make it a family pod. Okay.
Like everybody, we will give you a window seat to come on back, honey.
Exactly.
Come on back,
guys. Let's give a run here. A great big hand from tonight. And follow her, audience. Follow her podcast. Be in touch. You can check us out. We'll put her in.
We need to talk.
Yes, hashtag we need to talk to the podcast. Thank you so
follow
much.
her publication. Follow her on Broadway soon, and wherever else she's going to be on stage. All right, Belinda, thank you so much for being with us tonight. All right, we appreciate you. Please come back. All right, have a great night. We'll be right back after this break, guys.
Magnetic force that is pulling me down. Yeah, I'm trying.
All right, and we are back, guys. Oh my gosh,
That
it was an
awesome.
awesome time. I
Yes.
really enjoyed tonight, guys, and we'll have to definitely have her back.
Yes.
Wow, I'm still in awe. I mean, when you have those kind of moments,
I'm like Mary Lynn. I'm
with
definitely gonna follow her too.
Hey,
Mary
Hey,
Miss
Mary,
Mary
good to see you
Lynn.
tonight, man.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh,
that was awesome.
It was.
Yes,
It was really
yes,
good.
yes,
Any
yes.
points you want to mention real quick before we dig into our last little news with the fellas? Real quick, you want to talk about what Melinda did?
Yeah, because I follow Melinda on the socials, and what I love is that she is definitely one of those people who, when she advocates, she doesn't just advocate just for Black women or just for Black people. She will speak up on like when Jewish people were being attacked. She's like, hey, we've got to look at this, and we've got to look at these relationships and knock this off. And she encourages folks to look outside of your own immediate circle to find those similarities on how you can be an ally. How we can be an ally to our Asian brothers and sisters. How we can, all that stuff. And it's just like she really is in the whole the connection of humanity.
Well, I mean, if I may say, I think that's the same way in the inception that Truth Behind the Truth is. At the end of the day, we identify those situations, and we really want to present options to help your community to be better and be a better individual in that area of your life. So, we definitely are very inclusive. I think sometimes our conversation gets a little pinpointed, and rightfully so. I mean, because you have to draw attention to certain subjects, which we're going to draw attention to in just a minute.
But truth behind the truth, though, and I want to make this a point. She said this at the end, and I love what she said. This culture is about the me.
Right,
now, I work in a store with Hispanics. I work in a store with Koreans. I work in a store with whites. And we talk about on certain topics, okay? But I wish as a culture, as a society, that we get out of the individualism of our situations and start doing the research of what makes humanity great. That means coming out of what makes you uncomfortable and understanding that other people have had situations that have galvanized and have helped not only them, but you move forward as well. And I think that's what the situation is going on. I think as an African American, what we have put into the American society with our civil rights movement has galvanized the gay community as well as the women's rights movement, the gay rights, all of that. We need to understand that we're all in this together. So let's stop fighting each other and downing what is different from what makes us different. And let's get in, cahoots and make this country great.
Well said.
That's just me.
Harold, I know you had a quick point.
Now make it great again. Make it great for real.
Just make it great.
Make it great for real. Right.
Keep it great. It's great. It's just we have different ideas, but keep it great. That's all. We never say America wasn't great. This phase of America. That was a former America that wasn't great.
Disagree with you.
The former America that wasn't great. Okay.
I don't know if it's great, but I mean, what Dee said is so important because I don't know about that, but we all are connected, and that's what we need to understand and embrace, particularly those folks that don't understand that we all are connected. And in that connection, if one group isn't healthy and strong, it affects everything else. It affects the whole. So,
that's
I think people just need to get a lot of therapy. They just need to get some.
Speaking of therapy,
start with your cousin Clarence Thomas.
Right, exactly. We're gonna go into a little bit more therapy right now. Okay, and we talk about all this wonderful stuff that we mentioned tonight and all the essence of that, but then there's still a group of people that are growing up in a society that have no understanding of moral guidance for their life. They think that everything should be put out there. I know what you're saying here. I'm looking at you, but it's not me. And I'm trying to be judgmental, and I'm not trying to say that there's certain things. Oh, I am.
Somebody say I'm not trying to be.
I'm being judgmental right now.
Go ahead.
I'm being judgmental for purpose, and that's the difference. I mean, for purpose. There's no purpose. Can I have a picture up, please, real quick? But it's just the idea of what I consider embarrassment. Okay, and I understand that we were living in another culture or reading things like this, but when this is publicated or put out there as a massive amount of saying that we all respond this way, we all act this way, and then one of the most celebrated groups that have been out for a long time, celebrated all the rhythm and blues music that have been out there. And we have come to a point that we have downgraded ourselves, okay, to allow this behavior to be one. And I'm speaking of the behavior, this woman, what's her name? Love Rap or whatever her name is. Sexy Red or whatever it is. But when you come out with a song that is degrading to you as a woman, Okay, at the end of the day, I'm sorry. There's no justification for that in my book. Okay, now you could say the community that you came from. Okay, that somebody needs to upgrade the community. Okay, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just that it just shouldn't be, and it hurts my heart. Beautiful young ladies, but somebody
ketchup and mustard. I like ketchup and mustard.
You're so silly. But somebody told you. But here's the thing: somebody told you that you weren't great. Somebody told you that you had to lower your standard of life to be able to be represented this way. And listening to that group of people is not getting you to another. Yeah, you get the cash, you flip it, you making it rain, you doing all that. But at the same time, why would you have to come out with a song called My Booty Hole? Okay, and expect that to be the acceptable norm, and then talking about your cookies in between. That's not acceptable, guys. I'm saying yes, and I know that there have been former artists. Okay, Great. Okay, former great artists. Okay, and we can talk about them. However, it still wasn't done to that magnitude. It still wasn't done to this magnitude. We've all lived through them. Okay, you see what I'm saying? And they have said suggestive things. The number one, and you guys can remember. You can remember because you heard it. Yeah. But just like there was a song out from Sylvia back in the late '70s, Pillow Talk. Yeah, okay, yeah. She was mocked. Okay, she was clearly mocked by her suggestive sounds in the midst of the song.
Yeah, okay, Donna Summer was too.
So, but again, suggestive versus and blatantly in your face is two different dynamics, and I just don't think that it sends the right message to our young people. Okay, because you have young people that are following this and that are setting their patterns of their life and moving out in it. I got a granddaughter I got to look out for, and I'm sorry. Y'all can take your pick, and then we got to wrap. But go ahead. If you got something to say about it.
I think that's why it's so important for the older generation to mentor. You have to have mentors. And Busta Rhymes said this in his speech, that it's so imperative that you have people within your industry that should sit you down and say, this is what it's all about. Right. People like Dionne Warwick did it in the 90s. People should be still doing it right now. But that's why mentorship is so important, especially within any type of community, any type of industry, any type of job that you have. You need to know what you're representing and whose shoulders that you stand on. Right. I'm just saying.
But I love you, mustard and ketchup. All
right.
Because Lena Horne would have not did that. Lena Horne has opened up too many doors.
Right.
Oh Lord, look at skinny you, honey. Look at skinny you.
Where did this come from?
Look at JB.
Charles Stewart, a surprise photo. Hey.
Okay, thank you for a surprise photo. Together as it was. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning into The Truth Behind the Truth tonight. It has been a super blast. Yeah. I'm sure you've gotten a lot from Melinda Hill, and then of course a little wrapping our rant on this stuff that's going on. But anyway, make the decision for your life. Okay, at the end of the day, be good to one another, love one another, embrace one another. And if somebody's not in the right category, help them. That's what we're talking about. Truth behind the truth. Help them. Okay, we're all here to help one another. Blessings to Melinda. Blessings you fellas. Blessings everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We will see you guys right back here again next week. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye.